times. He came back, they were sleeping. He said, guys, I need you. And that's why we said an isolationist can't claim to have the Spirit. If he was that macho, he would have done the work by himself. Right? He only did what human beings couldn't do, right? He did everything, but when Jesus multiplied the bread, that was all he could do. Others distributed it. Right? So we must understand, because the kind of expectations that we have of ourselves, they are not reflective of Christ. And that's one word that we're going to be looking at tonight. Because we're looking at, the issue of identity. We're continuing that tonight. So it's so important. I was meditating on this and I said, what other biblical model can I have? Because the one we looked at on Sunday was Judas, right? And there was a consensus of opinion that we can't really say Judas was still a Christian when he committed suicide. Because for Judas, he had every opportunity. I think countless warnings. Right? Judas wasn't too different from Peter. Jesus said, that which you want to do, right? Do quickly. He wasn't sending him to go do it. He was saying, I know what you're about. Better. Repent, right? The same thing is said to Peter. Satan has obtained permission, right, to sift you as wheat. Right? When Jesus rose up from the dead, let me start from Peter. He said, go and tell my disciples and Peter. He knew Peter was in a bad state. Right? He knew Peter was in a bad state. Peter knew that he had disappointed the Lord. Right? And we knew that when Jesus came and Peter saw him, he jumped in the river, right? When Judas came to the garden to betray Jesus, Jesus called him friend. Right? Friend, where have you been? There were countless opportunities. Now, the other one that came to my mind was in the Old Testament. That was King Saul. You know, there was a guy who lied that he killed Saul. You remember the Amalekite who wanted to please David? He said he stabbed him. The guy was lying. He was trying to score maybe get an appointment in David's cabinet. But if you go back, you discover that the story of how Saul died was chronicled there. Right? How many of you know what I'm talking about? Do you want us to read it? Do you want us to read it? Huh? Okay. I think it's 2 Samuel. Is it 2nd? It should be 2nd. Huh? First, right? 30 of first. Okay, thank you. Okay, the tragic end of Saul and his sons. That's the title here. Let's quickly do that because that's really an answer. But you see, these are things that you see, they want. God said to Samuel, draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised men come and thrust me through and abuse me. This is a guy who still retains some sort of identity, right? But Samuel would not, for he was greatly afraid. Therefore, Saul took a sword and did what? The guy killed himself, right? He committed suicide. So the other guy came and said he killed Saul. But you see, you begin to understand when you now look at the lamentations of David. I've forgotten where that verse is now. I think it's the Song of the Bow. Right. That is 2 Samuel chapter 1 from 17. Then David lamented with the lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. And he told them to teach the children of Judah the Song of the Bow. Indeed, it was written in the book of Jasher. Remember, we crammed this in primary 2. It was a memory verse in my primary 2. Yeah, 1970. The beauty of Israel is slain upon his high places. How are the mighty fallen? Tell it not in Gath. Proclaim it not in the street of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice. Let the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor shields of offerings. For the shield of the mighty is cast away there. The shield of Saul. The shield of Saul, not anointed with oil. You see, if you read this properly in context, David was wondering why this happened to Saul. Right? How can the anointed die in that way? David knew this shouldn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. The battles of life cannot defeat the anointed. Now, the anointed can be in pain. The anointed can be depressed. Right? The anointed must not get to a point of despair. Because despair is spelled D-E-F-E-A-T. What's that? Huh? Defeat. Because despair is an acute state of hopelessness. And that's what I tell people. Regardless of how bad the news they tell me, I said, it will never be right to be hopeless. So at that faith, he was no longer, even if he was anointed, he was no longer reckoning with the anointing. He was no longer walking in the reality of who he really is. The anointed's life is not devoid of problems. Right? But the reality of the anointed's life is that he overcomes. He who whatsoever, I didn't even say whosoever. He said whatsoever is born of God does what? Overcomes the world. So I don't want to have an opinion. I want the Bible to be my opinion. You know, the medical student failed maybe his second MB.